Have you ever wondered what it takes to turn your message into a movement and build something that creates lasting impact?
Or what happens when faith, purpose, and aligned action come together at exactly the right time?
Well, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Women of Wealth, where generational wisdom meets ambition.
I'm your millennial host, Ali Ramo,
And I'm your Gen X host, Hollywood's Gray.
and together we're here to help you build wealth in your life, your business, and your legacy.
In this episode of Women of Wealth, we are celebrating something incredibly special. Our newest book, Women of Wealth, A Proverbs Legacy, Stories of Grit, Grace, and Strength, just launched. And here we are, 3 days after our book launch, #1 bestsellers. How do you feel about that, Ali?
It's pretty crazy. I was at a retreat all week, so phones were away, but it was really exciting when I did get my phone out to see the numbers jump from like, I think our first check-in was like 100 and maybe 50, and then 286, and then 3. And it was just really exciting to see, us hit #1 and just see the excitement from all the other authors as well. It was really special.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I would just say that, we worked with this publisher and they were really great, everyday women. And surprisingly, we did something no other author's done before. You want to talk a little bit about that?
We've sold the most copies on release day or launch day. So I think that's pretty exciting. Do you know how many books they've launched?
Yeah, so far we're at 409.
No, do
And
you know how many they've published? Sorry.
they've published 15 books besides ours. So we're number
Okay.
16. And we have the most. And actually, on Friday, when we were on the authors meeting, which was really cool, and we'll have some audio of that as well that we might be able to plug into this episode. So they said that they believed we were going to be the top. I think they did like 180 before or something like that. And while we were on the call, we were over 250. So we just kept going up.
We are #1.
We are #1. #1 bestseller.
We got #1 in all 3 categories and in new releases. So it was quite the exciting weekend for all of us. And it wouldn't have happened without our visionary, Miss Hollywood's Gray. And, when Holly first brought this idea to me, I was a little nervous because I don't really talk about my faith a lot. So people who know me know I'm a Christian, but it's just not something that I regularly talk about on social media. And so, sharing the concept of a Proverbs woman, and I'm like, oh, I don't really identify with that. And then as I read the chapter, I was thinking like, oh, okay, like I can totally do this. And although I was uncomfortable, it definitely pushed me to explore my faith more. So I just want to thank you for that. And it's been really cool to see my family reading the chapter and me having impact on people's lives through the chapter. And so that wouldn't have been possible without your vision, Holly.
Well, thank you. I also love the fact that Allie's mom decided to write a chapter as well. And I've known Allie's mom for quite a long time because Allie's aunt and I have been friends for, oh my gosh, almost 30 years now. Wow, that's a long time. So almost as long as Allie's been born, I've been friends with her family. So, and what I know about Felicia, Allie's mom, is that she is very organized and she's very on top of things. And she's kind of like now the matriarch of the family since her Allie's grandma passed away last year. And so, reading Felicia's story was really heartwarming because she talked about her story as a child, and she's definitely a lot different now as a grown woman than she was as a child. But I can still see some of those pieces, especially in Allie, that she's taught her about the little, free spirit, wild side that she talked about in the book. So it's been such a great opportunity to explore people that I've known for a long time in such a different way, because we don't really talk about our personal stories. We don't talk about our faith journeys. We don't talk about our relationships, with spirituality or God in the way that we talk about it in this book. I mean, for me, I've told some really personal stories and people kind of know about them, but they don't know what I was going through at the time. So I think it's really important to remember those stories and to anchor them in. A lot of the authors on our Friday our Friday call that we had, our authors call, they talked about how healing it was to write their story. And so I thought that was really interesting. Did you find any of that going on while you were writing your chapter?
Yeah, well, I shared a personal experience that I've recently been through in the last 6 to 9 months. And so it was fresh in the forefront. And it has brought me closer to God, which is crazy that I was really frustrated in that time that I talk about. And then getting it out there also helped me not feel so ashamed and kind of like put a bow on my healing. And so even I'm still kind of, there's good days and bad days, and I've actually revisited my chapter to remind myself and like re-heal myself. So I would definitely say that it was healing, and it's just now a special piece that I have for myself as well to go back to when I'm feeling a lack of faith, that I can go back to those words and remember who I am and where I'm going.
Yeah, it was interesting too, going through this process with Galit and Angela, who were part of Everyday Women. They're the publishers. One of the stories from Tammy is about her adoption journey. It's fascinating to listen to her story. She got adopted when she was a baby, and I guess her biological mother never held her. And I never really thought about the journey of adoption, the way that Tammy talked about that. And I thought it was very, very healing for her as well. It seems like, as well as other work that she's done, of course. But, one of the things that we were talking about, because she does talk about a little bit about abortion in her chapter, not that she was aborted and she's thankful that she wasn't. However, I think it's really a powerful message for women to talk about, adoption. My husband's story is similar. He wasn't adopted, but his mother was 17 when she had him. And so it could have gone a different way. And for me, I'm just like, whoa, what would my life look like if that had happened? I wouldn't have even had known him. So yeah, a lot of my story is definitely about some of those challenges that we had when we were attempting to get pregnant, and how adoption was on the table for us as well. We were looking into possibly adopting.
I just wanted to say that it was fun too, because at first I'm like, okay, what am I going to write about? And am I actually going to make a chapter like length of this? Because my first draft was like half the length. And then I think I read yours or my mom's or someone's, and it empowered me to dig deeper. And that's where it really changed for me and evolved into something deeper. And so I think having the anthology of having other people, other women involved, especially this is my first time being in a book and an author. And so it helped me like, oh, okay, like this is real, like this. And so I appreciated having other women who have authored other books kind of have that support system in writing the book. And it was funny that my mom was like, oh man, I need a whole book myself. So,
I know, right? So that's great. Her mom's retired too, so that might be something that she works on. That would be so fabulous.
I'm like, okay, maybe we need a family book or something. So
it's funny because this is the third book that I've been a part of. My first book, I had a co-author, and then the second book I was a part of was also an anthology book, but it was in my industry, in insurance, women in insurance. And boy, do I have a lot to say about that. However, this one has been something that was on my heart for a while and many years. And it's interesting because after the book was finally published, and some of the people who I was talking about being authors, they now want to be authors. So who knows, maybe there'll be like a volume 2. But I just want to say, like, for those of you who maybe you don't share your faith or you haven't really looked at the women in the Bible, there's a lot of really strong examples of strength and grit and grace from those women in the Bible. And the one that we picked was a Proverbs 31 woman. And actually, she doesn't really exist, because what she was or is as an example from a mother to a son on how to find a woman of noble character. And historians and people who have studied the Bible feel that this is King Solomon's mom giving him instructions on how to find a queen. And so, there are some pretty big shoes to fill when you look at it from like, this is a woman that existed, But when you look at it like this is a woman of character, this is a wife of noble character, is one of the things that it says in the Bible. And for me, I don't look at it like you're going to be all those things every day all at once, because that's almost impossible to live up to. But if that's your character, then that's something that you land back on anytime that you are, up against life. And so I really love that, we took a deep dive into that. For me, obviously, I've done a lot of research on it, but one of the things that I love about the Proverbs 31 example of a woman of character is that she was an entrepreneur, maybe even before we had the words entrepreneur. She went out and she found a field and she purchased it and she planted a vineyard. And from the profits, she was able to, buy linens for her family and whatnot, and how she takes care of people. I really love that example. As much as I'm an independent woman, I'm also very nurturing and caring and love to take care of my people. So for me, it's like great to identify, but there's so many strong women in the Bible that I actually, when we were done writing this book a few weeks ago, I was thinking, what other women could we do like a book study on and everybody write a chapter about? Because honestly, once you start writing and you start digging deeper, it is easy to find stories on how you relate to these people.
Yeah. So Holly, you've written 3 books, or you've been in 3 books as like an author or co-author. What would you say for someone who has an idea? Because I know you had this vision of doing some Proverbs 31 woman project for years. Can you take us through how it all aligned and how someone could make it happen if they have an idea?
Well, first of all, if you check out Everyday Women, that they made it super easy to publish. My first experience of publishing pushed through, my very business-minded book that I first came out with, is really a journey of how I became an entrepreneur through being really good in sports and being a coach. And I had a totally different experience with a ghostwriter and with, me meeting every week for 10 weeks to go over every single chapter and every single detail. And it was very, very expensive to have a ghostwriter, to have a publisher, to have all these things and all these meetings and all these experts that we were meeting with to put this book together, my co-author and I. And it was very expensive. And it was a totally different journey than writing a chapter for the anthology for the women in insurance. And also for this anthology, really the publisher, Everyday Woman, they're very reasonable as far as the pricing goes to be in a book. I think it was like $1,000 per person to be in the book. Mm-hmm. And they also really took care of everything once you delivered the chapter to them. They took care of creating the graphics. They took care of running the author meetings. They took care of a lot of the pieces that feel overwhelming. So if you have an idea, and especially today with AI, how you can put your story into AI, and if you're not the best writer, they can be your ghostwriter for you. They can clean, ChatGPT can clean up your grammar errors. And if you don't like the way it's written, you can tell it to write it a different way, and it can still be 100% your story, just with them being your editor. And it's free for the most part for Chat to be your editor. So I just say, but if you have a great idea, or you have an idea that you think is a great idea and you want to put it to paper, there's definitely a lot of ways to do that. And I would really highly suggest meeting with Galit or Angela to find out how easy it can be for you. We also started this process many months ago, and I knew I wanted to launch the book in March because it's Women's Month, International Women's Month. We wanted to launch it on International Women's Day, but that happened to fall on a Sunday this year, so that didn't really work out well for us. So a couple weeks after. And so, there's a lot of flexibility also when you work with someone like Everyday Woman, because they're able to, if you need a couple extra weeks to get that last author in, they're very flexible with that. And because of their process, the way they do it is we launch the digital version first on Kindle. And then after that, we get the hard copies a couple weeks later. So we actually get to read the entire book, and 409 people as of right now get to read the digital book first before we have that hard copy. And if there's any feedback about typos or, sentences that don't make sense or whatever, they do give us a little bit of time before they publish that actual hard copy book. So in a couple weeks, we will have those in hand. And it is great to have those in hand.
Well, it's been an exciting journey, and I was nervous because I didn't know, I kind of did it for me, and I didn't really know how I felt about other people reading it, but it made me feel really good when I had family members, I brought them to tears or I inspired them with something. And so it was just a nice reminder of, I did it for me, but then I was able to provide value to someone else as well.
Well, I think that especially for women, a lot of us shared about losses that we've had as parents, or not parents yet, but we've lost babies. Like I had a topic pregnancy, and you shared a little bit about your story too. And I think that women don't realize how common it is for you to go through that, especially in an early pregnancy. So I think that the healing of those stories are so powerful, not just for you, but for people that are reading them too, And
Yeah.
so we don't talk about it enough. I mean, as women, we don't talk about things like childbirth or menopause or, breast cancer, or even just like all the things that affect women. We don't talk to those about those a lot because, again, we're strong. We can power through. We can make it happen. I mean, I will say that childbirth is very painful. I did have an epidural when I had Jackson, but I know people that have done it without them, and kudos for them. My philosophy was I hadn't had any alcohol or anything in my system for 9.5 months, so why not why not enjoy it a little bit more and not be in pain? So anywho, that's just my story. I didn't talk about that in the book though, so maybe that'll come out again in another book. But I mean, like, we do all these really hard things as women, but we don't really talk about the stuff that happens throughout the course of it. So we'll have to talk more about that maybe with some of our authors and some of our people who have gone through it. I mean, some of those stories were very, very much practical. Here's some advice on how to be a Proverbs 31 woman to handle your finance. But the majority of them were very heartfelt. I mean, Brianna's story about being a 1%er. I was, an outsider looking in through that whole process. And that was extremely scary. I know for Sandra, who's a good friend of mine as well, going through that process with her daughter, obviously very scary. They almost lost her. They told her to make plans on what it was going to look like if her daughter did survive, and it wasn't going to be the woman that she is today. So, I mean, and I was actually in Dallas when her little boy, Bryant, had his first birthday. And so we got to see him because we all had dinner over at the Yancey's house one night. So that was really cool. It's like, and it took me back a minute, and I told Brianna and Sandra that night, I'm like, this is just so amazing to witness this miracle. The miracle that Brianna survived, and then the miracle of their little Bryant,
Well, if you would like to get your copy, you can go to our Instagram page. It's connected to our link in bio at Wow Women of Wealth, or you can search Women of Wealth, Proverbs Legacy on Amazon and get your copy for 99 cents. And thank you so much for all of your support. We do really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon.